I forgot already that I changed my profile picture again, and so when it popped up, I was like, hee 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 hee.
Yeah, I saw it and I started laughing. I was like, "Is that Alan?"
Yeah,
I knew it.
he looks so stupid.
Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and do the intro, and we'll just roll with it.
Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of Planet Derp Podcast. This is episode 5. And I have a really awesome person here with me today. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kayla. I don't really know how else to introduce myself. I do Twitch streaming.
I guess most people probably know you as Kaylachuu.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you actually just finished streaming.
I did, yeah. So if I get quiet for a minute, just kind of be like, hey, you want to say something? Because I did just run my mouth for 2.5 hours.
All right, I get it. Yeah, it gets exhausting after a while.
I think it's like there are like different levels for me, and I got asked this a lot because I self-identify as an introvert slash like a extroverted introvert.
Okay, yeah.
But it compartmentalizes a little bit in my head. Like I have different energy for playing games and stuff with my friends, and then I have like a different reservoir for like work, and then I have one for streaming. And so
Yeah.
it's really hard for, I guess, some people to wrap their head around the fact that low key I just want to curl up in my bed and never be viewed by anybody ever again because I go and do all of these things and like put myself out there so much.
Yeah. And then eventually a crash point happens.
Oh, for sure. It happens every day.
Yeah, and I feel that too because I've had other people be like, "Man, you're different on stream," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's just because when I'm there, I just feel like I'm there to entertain. When I'm hanging out with friends and just trying to be casual, I don't want to always be that guy."
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's also a difference between like groups of friends too, which makes it interesting. Like there will be certain characteristics that come out of me even in stream if there are certain people in there engaging with me during
Oh yeah.
the stream. And I'll be like, man, I don't necessarily know that that's like, I want my presence online to be 100% authentically myself, but I still
Right.
kind of like taper bits and pieces out of there depending on the mood of like the game I'm playing or just like the vibe that I want to go for the day. And so sometimes I'll just say something completely unhinged and I'm like, I only said that because person A is in here. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I call that the caveman effect is what I call that.
I love that. I'm going to start using that.
Because somebody, it just seems to happen in a wave. Like somebody else just breaks the ice, and then everybody just starts like being like, "Oh, this is okay. I'm just gonna pop off real quick."
Yeah, like today it happened actually, where I was like, I've been having a really bad problem with Alan Wake 2. And apparently it's like a pretty known issue with the game where the audio doesn't play correctly throughout the
Oh,
game. And so there's a lot of parts of it where there's just nothing. And so I'm sitting there staring into the camera in complete silence, like I don't know what to do. And so it happened today, and like the specific scene was just like a fever dream version of like swirling and pitch black, and it looked like you were just like plummeting down an endless tunnel full of thunderstorms and all sorts of things. And so I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make weird noises.
yeah.
And I don't know The moment I did it, I was like, somebody's gonna clip that. I don't know why I embarrass myself this way.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Clips. I look back on some old clips and I'm just like, oh no.
There are so many that play on one of my I have like the little generator that plays random clips
Yeah.
on some of my screens, and
Yeah.
there have been times where I haven't come back from a break because I'm just sitting here crying of laughter, and I'm like, I don't even remember doing this until the clip came up, but now that it's here, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life.
I love and hate I think it's what you're talking about. Like whenever somebody raids you or other channels, sometimes it'll play a clip of theirs.
Yes.
And they always pick the worst clips the generator does.
I wish that I could go through. I've tried to before go through and like get rid of a few of them because some of the ones that play are like super old. When I first started
Yeah.
streaming, I was streaming from my Xbox because I didn't have a computer at the time.
Yep.
And there are a few clips saved there from that time, and I'm like, this isn't what I do anymore. It's
This
not really
isn't
like
me.
content I make. I don't really know why this is here. But no matter how many times I delete the clip, it still shows up in the generators, so I guess it's like stored in the Twitch matrix.
So how did you start streaming? When did you start streaming? How'd you get into it?
When did I start streaming? That's a fantastic question that I don't necessarily have the answer to. I want to say at this point I low key started streaming like somewhere between 6 and 10 years ago because I feel like I was still doing it while I was in high school.
Oh, cool.
And I actually got into it because I had a friend and they introduced me to Stardew Valley, and then they were like, I've been watching this person on Twitch play it. And I was like, okay, like I don't really know much about this game. It's been really fun. It had like just come out as a port for the Switch, and so I was able to like buy it and download it. I was like, I'll watch this person play it because I'm sure they have a lot of tips on how to start the game and get things moving without wasting a lot of time. And I ended up just like falling in love with the community that they made and the culture that they shared, and I was like, I think this might be something I want to do.
That's exactly how it was for me. I had a friend that was doing the exact same thing. I saw the community, I saw just everything, and I was like, oh, I could totally get behind this. This is exactly what I've been looking for.
And like at the time, I think for the most part, streams were pretty, except for like the few outliers, streams were pretty limited to you either were really into cozy games or you were into like FPSs.
Right.
And those were like the popular streamers at the time. And so I was like, well, I play some Call of Duty with friends every once in a while. Obviously, like I'm getting into more multiplayer / cozy games with Stardew Valley and everything, but I'm not really seeing a market for these more multiplayer or niche and horror genre style games. So like, why don't I do that? Why don't I find friends that way?
Yeah.
And so I think for the most part, my first few streams, like I said, were through my Xbox, and that was a whole different ball game because at the time they didn't have much of an interface. It was just like you click the button to stream on Twitch and that's about it.
Yeah.
So I'd be sitting on my bed with my controller and then like my phone up with like the chat manager and then my laptop up with like all of the stream information so that I could make sure I kept everything together.
Oh yeah, I feel that so much. It's exactly the setup I was doing when I had to do it for my PS4.
It's awful. I'm sure it's a lot better now, but I'm like, well, now I have a computer, so I don't really need that.
Why would I?
But I started with Sea of Thieves. I played that a lot when it came out. And then We Happy Few was the first kind of like horror suspense style game that I had played. I don't really know if it falls into horror as much as just like weird and unsettling.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't think I've really ever gotten into any of the gameplay.
I really enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think I ever finished it though. I have a really bad track record of not being consistent with how much I stream. And I guess it goes back to the core.
It's hard though. It's hard to I mean, depending what your life is like, it's hard to have a schedule for streaming.
It really genuinely is, and I feel like people idolize getting older and having time to do things and, you know, getting out of college and getting your dream job, and then like you work the 9 to 5 and then you've got the rest of the day and you've got the weekend and like, oh man, you can do so much things. You can't.
No, because there's everything else that people really don't think about. That if you don't keep up with, it gets away from you, like everyday house chores and basically that. And especially if you're someone that has kids or pets that you have to take care of, or anything, or any other hobbies that you might even be into.
Yeah, it becomes. I find myself very often not wanting to play games, which feels unlike me. It puts me into this weird space of like I don't even feel like myself anymore because I just love playing games and like immersing myself into things. But after a while, I'm like, I'm not doing any of my other hobbies because I feel compelled to, you know, get on and play a few hours of Persona or get on and sign into Final Fantasy for a few hours.
I feel the exact same way right now. Like it has been such a struggle to actually just want to sit down and play a game. You know what I mean? Like because there's all these other things that I've had on my mind that I really want to push. Which I mean, the podcast has been one of them, and I'm really glad and kind of proud of myself that I have not been what's the word I'm looking for? Procrastinate? Yeah, I'm not procrastinating like I usually do and say, "Oh, I'm going to do it." But I've actually been, you know, hammering down and really trying to stick with it here, and it's been really cool.
I was so excited when you were like, let's do this podcast because I ended up listening to most of, I think it was the second episode.
With just me and Owen?
Yeah.
I think then and the one where we got Joey, we were always like, is there anybody else that we want to bring on? And Owen always has a list of people, of course. And you were on it. So I was like, yes, that would be great.
He probably pulled out his scroll, dusted it off a little bit, was like, here are all of the people.
Yeah, bless that man. He's such a sweetheart.
He really is. I wish that I could keep up with him because I am definitely not as, I don't want to say not as people oriented, but not as compelled to be around people all the time as he is.
Right. Well, I think that goes towards more of the introvert side of like, yeah, because I'm the same way. I would much rather just be at home, being cozy, and it depends. Like if I have a really good friend that I don't care to go see or hang out with, that's fine and stuff. Or going out with like the kids and Sandy, but like most of the time, I would rather just be at home. Because that's just where I find comfort. That's just, I guess that's the life of an introvert.
I guess so. I think it also, for me at least, I went through a period of time right after high school where I think for the longest time when I was like growing up and kind of forming who I was going to be, who I wanted to be, because I felt so compelled to stay within myself, I also started to idolize extroverted people around me, and I started keeping a lot of extroverted people around me because I guess to some degree I felt like that's the way that I should be.
Okay, yeah. More, I guess there's more life there because I feel like I feel like introvert people want that excitement. Because I kind of feel that way. I'm like, I want to be that way.
Yeah, and I think it's portrayed in media a lot that you're meant to like go out all the time and go travel and go do things, even if it's just standing outside in a park for a few hours. Like there's not very many things that shine a positive light on I just want to stay inside and watch TV. So I think for a while, I almost thought there was something wrong with me because I was like, I don't really want to go out. Like, I have quite a bit of social anxiety. I have
Mm-hmm.
performance and public anxiety. Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't really want to do that. But, you know, my friend over here is constantly going out and going to restaurants and getting food and going to concerts, and like maybe that's something that I should be doing all the time. So there were a few years where my mom kind of yelled at me because I was never home.
Yeah. See, like as a teenager, I was completely extroverted. Like I was always gone, just having fun doing anything, putting myself
Mhm.
out there. And then as I got older, I just seemed to stay indoors more. Maybe it was more to have to do with like anxiety actually starting to, peek its head and depression and stuff like that.
Oh, depression's a big one too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That'll keep you indoors.
That's been like my whole year. I had like a pretty life-changing thing go on at the beginning of the year, and so I've been like moving a bunch of pieces around, moving myself
Mm-hmm.
around, trying to reestablish patterns and habits and hobbies outside of the scope that I had them in before. And
Mm-hmm.
there are definitely days, like I think today actually I stayed in bed until probably 3 o'clock because I was like, I have things to do. I have things that I want to do. I don't want to get up. And it gets to a point where I kind of start to beat myself up about it. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I'm only going to get more sad by saying
Yeah.
these types of things. So, like, why don't I just get up and go do something?
Yeah, self taught, like it's okay to have those days, and that's what you got to tell yourself is it's okay because this isn't a forever thing, and we know that this is only temporary, just like anything else. And self talk is something we got to be super careful with because I'm bad for it too. I think we all are to some degree. We beat ourselves up for things.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. I do see a therapist pretty regularly
Okay.
because of everything that's been going on. And I think it's generally super helpful just to talk to somebody who's a little bit on the outside of things. I think I've been seeing
Right.
her for like 6 or 7 months now, so I don't know how much on the outside I can consider her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it happens a lot where I'll be sitting here just like stressing out over something that's probably so small, just like sending a message to somebody or asking somebody a question. And then I'll come into therapy and I'll be like, what do you think about this? Is this like a good thing or a good way to phrase this? Or should I do this action? And she'll talk me through the whole thing. And I get this like false sense of confidence, I guess. And so usually within like 30 minutes of our session ending, I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I did the thing.
Yeah. I get that. I totally
And
know
I'm
what
like,
you mean.
I guess I just needed the person to believe in me
Yeah.
in order to do it.
Yeah. And it kind of just, because I understand what you mean, because I have a really bad time with um, conversations and understandings, because I feel like most of my conversations, there is somewhere in it that there's going to be a misunderstanding from my brain because I don't know if I've got BPD or some shit because it happens every time. Somebody will say something and my brain will completely make up something that is not even there. And then after it's done and after I've calmed down, I'm like, "Oh, that's what they meant. They wasn't even talking about what I was thinking about."
Yes, I can relate to that on so many levels. You
Mhm.
have no idea. I think we should write a book about it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I've been talking a lot about it with my wife, and it's got me. It helps too. It helps me kind of check in with myself a lot more with conversations, and it's been really helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I'm
I think
more
that's the
aware of
point that I need
things.
to get to.
Yeah, and it's
I
hard. It's
think
not
that
easy. Like, cause I mean, I the past couple years of my life was probably some of the hardest I've ever went through, and now It's only just recently I feel like I've come up out of the hole again, and I feel like I'm able to be myself, and I've kind of been exploring those things. And I guess like I was going back to talking about pushing and doing the podcast, it's been one of those things that I've been able to do since I've crawled out of my hole. And it's been great.
Well, I'm very happy that you're doing it, and I'm happy that you're coming up and out of yourself and you're able to find the motivation to do those things.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like it's not celebrated enough.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think the same thing. Because when people tell me things like that, like anything that has to do with like a positive outcome, I praise them. I'm like, congratulations, that's amazing. I think most people just don't understand how hard it can be in certain situations. Everybody handles everything differently. And I think we should praise more people. We should praise more people and their success.
I think there's I don't want to say like a weird vibe. There's a specific word I'm looking for, and it's definitely not vibe, but
Okay.
connotation maybe around celebrating successes.
Yeah.
And it could just be like my anxiety brain getting to me, but like somebody will do something so small, right? Like they'll be like, I went to the gym for 30 minutes today, and I'll be like, oh my God, you're doing so great. Like, good job. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's like, it could be a big thing to them. It could be a small thing. I don't really know. I'm just saying congratulations regardless, because to me it sounds like a big deal. But what if I'm coming across like condescending?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing I was talking about. Like my dumb brain will just start twisting things, and I'm like, oh no. But I think that I think a lot of people in life probably don't get the support they need or needed when they were a child. So I think that giving anybody, some praise on anything positive that they're doing is great. It's a good thing.
I think we should all praise each other more, and everybody should see a therapist. It does not matter
Yeah.
if you feel good or bad, just go. It's so good for you. It's so good.
Yeah, don't depend on, because I see this so many times. Don't depend on a streamer or someone that's basically not a therapist to try to give you the advice that you need, because most people think that they can fix you, and that can't happen. Nobody can fix you. You can only fix yourself whenever you hit that point where you're like, okay, I'm ready to change.
Completely agree. The streamer thing just brought up a memory that I completely forgot about until now. So I'm coming up on my 4-year stream. I think it's like technically the affiliate anniversary of like consistently streaming. And typically I have cultivated a community that I really enjoy. Everybody is super chill. They're able to like joke with each other and have a good time.
That's awesome.
There was one incident, I want to say like 2 years ago though, where this person joined in on the Discord, and I was like, it's so cool to have you. Like, thanks for chatting in the stream all the time and stuff. And they were like kind of cool for like the first like couple of days. And then they started private messaging me saying like absolutely crazy stuff. Like they'd be like, can you just talk to me real quick? I'm gonna like self-harm or things like that. And I'd be like, I would just stare at the messages and be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Because I feel like I'm
I
already
appreciate
so
that they
bad
didn't
with
do it.
words. So like even trying to attempt to deal with something like that makes me a mess.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is kind of like a low-key trigger for me. Like I don't talk about it too much, but like I'm not feeling great about this interaction, and like I don't want them to feel like they're alone or that nobody is there to listen to them or talk to them, but at the same time, like, I don't have the mental capacity to give to this person.
Right.
And I think I ended up having to show like a close friend, like, hey, can you just like look at this and tell me what to say, because I don't know what to say at this point, but I really can't continue this conversation.
Yeah, it's like I can't have this on my hands. This is too much. This is somebody's friggin' life we're talking about, you know? This is a person.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I've been in that state of mind before, and I can relate. I've never actually been like a self-harmer in the past. Well, if I think about it, maybe with alcohol and stuff, I think, yeah, probably. So there's different ways to self-harm. So I probably definitely did some damage with alcohol and whatnot. I was never into like hard drugs or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I had like a pretty like abusive and manipulative past with that kind of stuff. And so growing up into that, I'm kind of like, this is my hard line, like this is my boundary. Like, if you're able to collect yourself and talk to me about things, like,
yeah,
I'm very empathetic. I would love to talk to you about it and like get your perspective and bounce ideas back and forth and try to make you feel better, because I like to be the caretaker in a lot of those respects. But if you're just going to blatantly come out and tell me like you're panicking and you don't know what to do, like, I don't know what to do with that. You're not giving me the information or the chance to really process it. You're just throwing it at me. And I think that's kind of what you were talking about with like people coming in and just trauma dumping sometimes.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yeah. It's like I could literally be in the middle of playing, let's say, on one hand, I could be playing Elden Ring, and in the middle of a very intense boss fight, and this person, you know, is trauma dumping in chat, and I'm freaking out, trying to kill this boss and give him advice at the same time, like, oh, it's going to be okay. Maybe I'm just talking to myself in that moment. Who knows? And on the other hand, I could be playing a super happy game and everybody's having a great time. And then here comes, you know, whoever to trauma dump. And then it kind of just freezes everything.
Yeah, it changes the mood of the whole presentation of the stream of the game. You're like, we're playing Bloons Tower Defense and you're telling me about your life right now. Like, this is weird.
Yeah, this is not the time for this.
I feel like we've created a mental health advocacy out of this podcast today.
That's the thing I love about it. It can kind of branch off, and that's I think, you know what, I think I have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm not sure, but this is the way that my mind works, is that I'll think of a subject and then I'm like, oh, well, this kind of goes into that subject. So it's just a tree and it just keeps branching and branching. And that's usually the way my mind works.
Diagnosed ADHD. So I get it. I understand. It'll definitely be like, oh, wow, I'm talking about, you know, paper towels. I remember this one time my friend used paper towels. Oh, and then they did this. And suddenly we're talking about middle school. And I'm like, how did we even get here over paper towels?
Yeah, it is. It's the rabbit hole is deep for someone with a brain like ours. That's awesome. Well, another thing I wanted to talk about. So I did
remember on.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You started. So this one time.
No, you go ahead. I can save mine for after you.
Okay, well, does it have to do with streaming?
No. So
okay.
You go first.
Okay. Well, just one other thing I wanted to talk about was I've noticed in the past that you've done cosplay and stuff before, which is really cool. I've always enjoyed the work that goes into cosplay.
Yeah, cosplay is super cool, and it's also super expensive.
Yeah. I've seen some of
So
the
I
pieces
actually
on some
just went
shops, and
to.
I'm just like, how do people do it?
I wish I could tell you honestly. I have done cosplay for since 2013. That was the first year I went to a
Oh, wow.
convention, and so I like
Nice.
threw a cosplay together for that. And then I entered the realm of like purchasing cosplays for a while, and then I
Hmm.
started piecing things together. So like one of my more regular cosplays that I typically bring is I do Misty from Pokemon.
Yep.
Um so that was like I bought shorts that kind of matched and a shirt that kind of matched, and I found a wig and styled it, and it was kind of like a pseudo labor of love because I didn't necessarily make anything, but it was the first time that I didn't buy everything in a complete set. I
Hmm.
actually went out of my way to kind of make it a little more accurate.
Right. And it was great. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you have any plans to do more cosplay?
I think I might limit myself at this point to maybe making them like special stream things or
Hmm.
like incentives during special events. Um, I kind of decided this year would be my last year for conventions for a little while just because money is really hard
Right.
and conventions cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked into it. It's not cheap.
Uh-huh. It's not. And I just went to Otakon like 2 weekends ago, I want to say at this point.
Okay.
And it was the first convention I've been to that I didn't cosplay because I was like, there are people that are going to be there that I want to meet, that I want to see. I know this is already going to cost me a lot of money. I wasn't planning on going there to begin with. So
Right.
it like physically pained me to not have a cosplay on me because I've never been to an anime convention without one.
Right
But
at that point, it had become like tradition almost.
mhm.
And
And I
so,
think there's
yeah.
like a it's similar to streaming, I guess, where there's a different bucket for cosplay performance. Like even if I'm not role playing as the character, it's still like putting on a mask and being able to walk around and having people go, "Oh my god, your stuff looks so cool. Like can I take
Right.
pictures? Can I ask you about it?" So
That's cool because yeah, it's definitely its own community, cosplay for sure.
it is. I follow a lot of really talented cosplayers, and right before COVID, I had started getting into learning how to sew a little bit and learning how to make my own like small props. I did a Sailor Neptune cosplay and I bought the actual outfit, but then I thrifted shoes and painted them the correct color, and then I made the like headgear and arm braces and stuff out of crafting foam, and I did another cosplay, I think that same year, of Taco from the Adventure Zone, and I actually
Nice.
like made his robes and I made the bracer, and I was like really into it. I was like, "Yeah, let's go. Like I can finally sew something. I know how to follow a pattern.
I
Like
can do
maybe
it.
I'll start making things." Yeah, like let's go. And then COVID happened
Oh shit. Yeah.
and I lost every ounce of motivation that ever existed in any of my bones, and I haven't touched a sewing machine since.
It is so insane to me. Like literally every time I hear this same story, like whether, anybody doing anything, COVID has been the reason for everybody's seems like depression, anxiety boosts over the past couple of years and just absolutely no motivation to do anything.
It's kind of crazy because I look back on that time and obviously I'm not downplaying it at all. It was a super, super terrifying time.
Right.
It was scary to go out. It was scary to be around people when it was mandatory to be around people because you didn't know, like, if you were carrying something or if they were, or if they were immunocompromised and you just like put
Mhm.
them in a position. Like, it was for somebody with anxiety, it was really, really, really bad.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but I look back on like that whole year and I'm kind of like, for me at least, it was pretty exciting, all things considered. Like,
For
I had
introverts
just,
and streamers, oh, dude, it was a party. It
yeah,
was great.
I had just moved out to Washington State like the day before the country shut down.
Oh,
And
shit.
so we were like getting to know this new area and able to just like play games all the time because I didn't
Hmm.
have to go to work for a few months. And
Perfect.
yeah, and so it was like, and I think during COVID was when I officially started streaming like with a
Hmm.
computer. So that was really cool. And so I look back on it and I'm like, I feel really terrible, I guess, about saying like this may have been one of the highlights of my life so far because it wasn't a highlight in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But
Yeah. 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 But I totally get what you mean on that because like I said, on for extroverts and other people in businesses and whatnot, and people's health, it was horrible. But for introverts and staying inside and people making a little bit of extra money from streaming, yeah, it was a great time. It was awesome.
but I do like I said all of these things to come back around to what you had mentioned where
Hmm.
it did kind of overall kill a lot of like ambition and like hobbies and interests that at least I had because, a lot of those were embedded in doing things and going out to things. And
Right,
so,
exactly.
like, yeah, I picked up streaming and that was really cool. And I'm really grateful to like have opportunities like this now because I've met so many cool people through it. But there were so many things that I genuinely felt passionate about that I could care little about at this point.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally get that. I feel like I've even been trying to drum more recently, and where I'm still slacking on that a little bit, and I'm grateful for the time that I do get to practice, but it's another thing that I'm slowly pushing towards to do more and eventually record covers and put them up on YouTube, stuff like that. Stuff I've been putting off for too long. I just want to make
Oh,
music too.
if you do that, send the link my way
Oh, of
because
course.
it's not very often that you hear about somebody doing drum covers of things.
Yeah.
I've been
Uh,
thinking recently that I used to be pretty heavy into doing vocals for things. I was like
oh,
a choir kid and like a musical kid growing up.
that's
And
awesome.
I like recently decided that I think my range has been suffering a little bit because I don't like practice that
Mm,
anymore and like
yeah.
I'm into, hardcore and alt rock
Yeah.
bands. And so
Yeah.
it's really hard to practice, being a soprano when everybody sings in a mid to high alto range.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
So I'm like, maybe I'll look up YouTube like lessons so I'm not just like doing vocal warm-ups to my wall. But
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I love following along with people. It's so much more helpful,
mhm.
whether
And
it
I'm
be
like, I don't have the
workouts or
money for
tutorials.
lessons.
Oh God, no, not lessons. You can get out of here with that. I got no money for that. Self-taught. Well, through YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is so helpful for so many things. I went to school for web design and I obviously learned a lot of my skills through actually going to school, I guess, but
Hmm.
like there are still a lot of days where like at work even they kind of as long as you meet your deadlines on things, they're
Yeah.
pretty flexible as to like where you put the time that you're working on things.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time I'll just spend like an hour or two poking around like design trends on YouTube or Photoshop tutorials. Like there's so many
Nice.
useful things on there that I don't think a lot of people take advantage of because they think
Yeah.
they need to pay for a service.
Yeah, that's crazy because I'm a big fan of trying to find free services that are actually like worth it. You know what I mean? And there are so many
Mhm.
and so many tutorials on And here's the thing too, is I've noticed that as long as the program has the basic tools for whatever you're trying to do, you could watch a tutorial for, let's say, Photoshop. And even if you're not using Photoshop, if as long as you're using a program, which a lot of these free ones now have the tools kind of like Photoshop, so you could basically watch a tutorial there and do it on the free program. So either way, you can learn how to do it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think at this point there's a lot of clones for a lot of those programs, and they find ways around making pretty much the same program, but like the hotbars are switched and the icons aren't exactly the same, and like
right, yeah, it's not
paintbrush might be
exactly
called the brush tool, but
I'm thankful for that. I'm so thankful for these and it's nice too because you have these companies, like I just recently started using DaVinci Resolve for editing videos and stuff. And while they have a basic free program, they also have other programs that if you wanted to buy it, you could own it, you know? I think that's cool.
I heard DaVinci's really good.
It is. So far it's been great for just the free stuff you get with it. It's been awesome.
I was actually really shocked to learn. I bought my friend a 3D printer for Christmas, and
Ooh, nice.
part of me buying that was like, I'm a very artistic, hands-on type individual. Like maybe I can learn how to model things that
That'd
we
be
can
cool.
like test on the printer.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to learn that Blender is free.
Yes, yes. Blender's a huge tool.
Like that's so cool.
Yeah. So many companies use Blender.
I think there might be like a pay option to like unlock certain things maybe, but like everything that you need to get started was just there. And I was like, I wish that more of these brands that have become the industry standard would provide this so that people could actually get practice without having to pay for things.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly, 100%. Sorry, my dog started barking, completely threw me off track.
That's like me whenever my cat comes in the room. He'll just come in and scream, and I'll be like, all attention is now on you, buddy. What do you want?
Oh, it's so funny that you said that. As soon as you said that, my cat literally came in here and started meowing at me.
It's the way. They knew. They heard it.
They hear me talking about him, so now he's going to leave.
Mine likes to... I think right now he's in bed because he's gotten into the habit of asking... Like, he basically asks me to come to bed at a certain point. Like, he'll come in and scream and then walk away and go back to bed. And I'm like, I think you want me to follow you.
Yeah, you want something?
But usually if I'm in the office, he sits at the door, and I think he's like guarding the door or like making sure that I don't leave. Like, I don't really know what it is.
Ferocious guardian.
I'm like, my guy, you're like 11 pounds. I don't think you're doing anything.
I love that about like small creatures. They're just so fearless. They think they can do so much damage.
He is the most fearless. Like, I grew up with dogs, so this was my first experience really having a cat. I've never seen an animal more fearless in my entire life than this cat. Myself included.
Not afraid of anything.
Literally not. Like, he gets a little skittish when new people come around, but like, he doesn't go and hide forever. Like, he'll usually position himself in a way that he can still observe while he's like undercover and feel safe.
Yeah.
And I know that like most animals need an adaptation period to like going to new places. I've moved this cat into 3 different apartments at this point, and every single time he is just out of the bag, running around, sniffing everything. I'm I don't think anything can scare him.
He's like, what is this place? Who's here?
Yeah, like, it's empty, I promise.
Gotta make sure no one's here. Well, that's awesome.
Gotta protect his safe space.
So before I interrupted you, what was you had something you was gonna say earlier.
So I was going to say, like I said, I listened to the entirety of the second episode, and one of the things that came up a lot, which knowing Olin, I was like, this is entirely understandable, is music. He brought up music a lot, and music
Oh yeah.
references and music influence. And so I kind of wanted to just straight up ask you, like, what are your top 5 favorite like bands or music groups?
Oh God. I love music too much to answer this. Let's see. I could probably do a list like this for each genre almost. That's how it would have to be. But
I feel that.
Right, I mean, Coheed and Cambria has always been a really big influence on me. I love Coheed and Cambria. And then I also love like metal bands like Unearth. Or if you want to go older, like I love all the oldies like Metallica and Megadeth, Anthrax. You could get even heavier stuff that's newer like Lorna Shore. Oh my gosh. Then I love pop punk bands like Blink 182, Sum 41. Yeah, my list could go on forever. Every Time I Die, probably one of my absolute favorites.
I completely understand. I was like, I know this is going to be such a loaded question because anytime anybody ever asks me, I'm like, do you want like the right now list? Because that's probably the best that I can give you.
Oh yeah, and a Japanese band that I've been really into, and they're wild, and they're called Maximum the Hormone.
Oh.
Yeah, they're wild. They're like so many crazy genres wrapped up in a band.
Okay, I'm adding this right now to my library on Apple Music so that I can listen to it at some point.
Yeah, they're wild. What about, okay, so right back at you. What is the right now list?
The right now list. Okay. Coheed and Cambria kind of stays up at the top for me. It doesn't matter what the year is, what the vibe is. That's pretty constant for me. I very recently got into Dance Gavin Dance, and that has been like I think like a 3-year long like love affair at this point.
Yeah.
They end up on like the top of my most listened lists at the end, like Spotify and Apple Music do those little like wrapped things.
Same with Olin. Right every time I talk with Olin, it's always Dance Gavin Dance comes up.
They're so good. They're so good, and I think that the thing that really draws me to them, because I didn't really take myself as a hardcore like half screamo type of person, because I can't really understand it. Oh, yeah? John Mess has a way of enunciating every single word, and I don't care if it like means something. I don't care if it's nonsense. I'm just glad that I can understand it.
Yeah, like, oh, I can hear what he's saying.
Yeah, and I think that for a band with as long of a history as they have at this point, and they're going into an era with a 4th lead singer, like, it's a band that constantly molds and changes with the times, and so it doesn't make anything really feel stale.
No, they recently, I heard an interview with them, and they were talking about how now, where they're kind of open and not with anything or anybody, they're just going to start doing and putting out music, whatever they feel like putting out. So it's probably going to get pretty wild with them.
I'm very excited for this like experimental era. Just because I feel like they've always been a little experimental, so it's not outside of the norm for them. Like, it's not going to be a whole genre shift. It's going to kind of be like, oh, this is just them doing them for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like every song is probably going to have like its own little twist to it. Like its own little genre twist.
Okay. But I'm looking at my rotation list for more bands.
Yeah.
I also pretty recently got into the Home Team.
The Home Team. That name sounds
I
familiar, but
found
I'm not
them.
sure.
I found them on Instagram. Their like reels started popping up on my feed, and I was like, you know what? I'll give these guys a try. And I went and I listened to their like first album, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, this kind of hits. It's definitely like a rock slash like almost rock pop type of thing, but just a little heavier than pop.
Okay.
Um, but they just put out a new album and it slaps. It's so good.
Okay, I'll definitely have to check that out.
Let's
The
see.
Home
Wolf and Bear
Team.
has been pretty high on my list.
Wolf and Bear?
Yeah,
This is also that one I don't know about.
they're another like swancore band. They're pretty much like Dance Gavin Dance, but not Dance Gavin Dance.
Okay. I get that.
But they put out some pretty heavy bangers. And then the one artist that I will sing the praises to for like the rest of time that I like entirely did not expect was there's two of them actually. One that I did expect and one that I didn't. The one that I didn't expect was Christine and the Queens.
Christine and the Queens.
Yeah. They're like
Okay.
a French singer-songwriter.
Oh, nice.
And
I love music from other countries. That's what I'm really into.
it's so interesting to hear like culture seep through music in ways that you
Yes.
don't expect.
Exactly. Yes. I
Like
love it.
there's one thing to hearing like things in like your native language and your native like home and kind of like what you grew up with, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
like obviously there's culture to that too, but you're kind of numb to it because
Exactly.
you've
Yes.
lived it.
Yes. Whenever you hear
So
something
being
foreign, it's like, oh, this is mystery to me. This is new. This is exciting.
yeah, I equate the experience to like a lightning in the bottle type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they're really good. They're very strong like vocalist and dancer. They used to do a lot of dance, so I have seen them once live and that was like, oh man, I wish that I could replay that concert over and over because it was just very good.
Don't you love that?
I do. I really do. I just saw Green Day last night and that was
What?
also a concert that I was like,
Nice.
whoa.
Those are all again one of my favorite bands of all time ever since I was a kid.
Mhm.
Love Green Day. They've always been a big influence on me.
And they still got it. So if they
Yeah.
come near you, I highly recommend it. It was very clear that they knew that this tour was going to bring in a lot of people and bring in a lot of revenue, and they
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of care to put the revenue back into the production value that they delivered. Like it was
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, this new stuff that they've been doing is really, really good.
Mhm.
And it seems like that they've like, Billy Joel, I know that he's like had his stuff in the past he's had to deal with, and it seems like he's finally gotten to a good state of mind.
Yeah, he was very very happy, very high energy. He actually they had to post a thing this morning. They were supposed to have a show tonight in Hershey, Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
and they had to postpone it because they went so hard last night that he lost his voice.
Oh no. That's great though. That's how you know he had a really good time.
Yeah. I was
And
like, it could also be because it was like raining and maybe like he got a little stuffy,
yeah.
but it's fine.
He could have a cold,
But the other artist that I feel deserves like an actual really big shout out here is the Deer Hunter. I don't think they have gotten so much bigger over the years that I've been like seeing them, but I still don't think that they get enough praise for the way that they bend the genre that they're in, that they constantly like test the waters of like what music
Deer
means and like
Hunter.
how big it should be and what it should feel like. The story writing is immaculate, the lyricism is so good, and Casey Crescenzo has the pipes of a god. Like,
Okay, you definitely got to send these bands to me.
or will let me write this down.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will forget. I'll just curate you a little playlist and
Yeah,
send it
yeah,
over.
yeah.
We can
That.
exchange playlists.
Awesome. Good. Well, God, mine's chaotic. It needs work.
So is mine. I'm looking at my like heavy rotation mix right now, right? Because I was like, let me pull up the bands that I've been actually listening to, and most of the ones that I mentioned are in there. And then I've got Chapel Roan, the entirety of the Has Been Hotel soundtrack.
Nice.
Charlie XCX is in there. Let's see. I've got Take Cover. I've got Royal Coda.
Wow, there's so many of these artists I've never even heard of.
Honey Revenge is in there. It still just makes me giggle that the entirety of the Has Been Hotel soundtrack is in there. I think that's
just randomly.
yeah, like
Hey, if it's good, it's good.
Maybe I want to listen to Dance Gavin Dance and then have a little, Poison interlude.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Can't go wrong with that.
No, it feels good. It feels right.
Next thing on the list after, well, let's see. You've done Alan Wake. You're on Alan Wake 2 right now, right?
Yes.
So what is next? What can people expect next?
All right. I'm going to pull up my Steam for this because I have a lot of, I think this is the ADHD talking. I have a lot of things that I haven't finished, and I have a lot of things that have been sitting in a queue of like, I'll get to that eventually. I'm going to save that game for stream, and I just have not touched
too long. My list is just way too long at this point.
I can tell you for free while this is opening that I did start Little Kitty Big City, and I never finished it.
Sounds fun.
And so I'll probably do that at some point. That's definitely like a cozy little like no pressure game. It's so cute. The cat looks exactly like my cat, so I feel like a personal connection.
Yeah. That's I was about to say, well, then that just hits. That's perfect.
It really is.
It's my cat.
And then I started a very long time ago. I started and completed the Outer Wilds, and then I started the DLC and I never finished it.
That game looks fun.
And so that's probably
the next one.
Such a good game, and if you haven't played it, you need to play it.
Okay. Let's add that
I'm going
to
to just send
list.
you lists of things. It's like without like giving too much away, I guess, it's like a very thought-provoking puzzle space exploration game.
Well, that sounds fun. I suck at puzzles though, but I'll give them a go. Everyone, that's what I'm known for.
In the way that you don't expect it.
Oh no, Kayla,
like it's not too often that you're sitting there. It's not too often that you're sitting there, like, just solving a thing to unlock a door. Like, somebody said something to me the other day because I was talking about wanting to restart or like start up playing that again, and I was like, but there's so much going on in the game that at this point I don't remember that I know where I am in the game.
Yeah, you'd have to start all over.
But I don't want to do that either, right? Like, I feel like I was far enough along that starting over is going to take forever.
Yeah, I get that. Yes, at some point, it's like, oh, I'm just going to abandon that for a while.
Yeah, and but they said to me, you might as well just find a way to like wipe the DLC file and restart, because for that game, knowledge is the game. Like you have to know what's going on. You have to know
You have to stay in
what
it.
ticks this box and what moves this.
Yeah. So is there anything that you've wanted to bring to the stream other than gaming, or do you just feel comfortable just gaming?
I think a lot about music.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought a lot about it. There have been a few times over the past few years where I've felt just inspired enough that I'm like, maybe I'll start like uploading covers to YouTube again.
Yes.
Like maybe I'll start doing things like that. I used to do that a lot when I was younger.
Oh, you definitely should. The music community is so supportive.
And I can't get over myself is the problem here. I have such bad performance anxiety that I'm almost like, I feel like doing it live, like bringing that to Twitch would be the better option, because it's like one and done. Like if somebody clips it, they clip it, but like otherwise I don't have to save the videos. I don't have to revisit it. I kind of just do it, go, I did that, and then forget about it.
That's what I've been doing with my streams lately. I don't even publish them anymore. I just stream the way that I want to and just leave it.
I think mine auto-published to my Twitch because whatever, but I think those ones would be the ones I'd go back in and be like, do I want this to sit here?
Yeah. I think that would be really interesting to see if you started doing like live covers, because you can also I'm sure you've seen like maybe the what's it called, the song bot, the music bot, like it's intertwined with Twitch, and basically you can go in there and make a list of songs that you are comfortable with like doing covers with, and that people could go in and if they sub, you could do little extra things. But if you wanted to do a cover or whatever, you could do it there and people could pick songs from your list.
That's a little less scary, because I guess I'm not like picking out songs and like having to build my own playlist. But I don't know. I get so self-conscious about like, well, what if somebody tells me that I sound like poop? Or what if they tell me that the way that I did that trail off was not satisfactory? And like, I know at the end of the day, I'm still just like learning and sharing things that I love, and like I shouldn't be so affected by it, but it's the exact same reason why I don't stream Final Fantasy 14.
I get it. I totally get that.
Like, how do I put no backseat gaming on singing? I can't do that. People are gonna come in and say something whether I want them to or not.
Someone that's being constructive with their criticism, I can be aware of when someone's saying something, in that way. But if someone's just straight up being an ass, then it's just kind of like, come on, dude.
It's like constructive criticism is entirely a different ballgame, and like I have no problem with that at all. Like if you came in and you were like, hey, it sounds like you were a little flat there, maybe try doing this. Like,
right, exactly.
I love that kind of thing.
They're giving you the tips to fix that problem.
But if you just come in and you go, yo, you kind of suck.
Yeah, you sound like Dookie.
Part of the reason I stopped streaming for a little while over the past 2 years or so, I actually had somebody tell me that they were like, I was like, I'm playing this game that you really like. Like, why haven't you been into chat and watch it and stuff? And they were like, I don't like the way you play video games.
Jeez.
And I was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I don't like your reactions.
Like, what?
What is that? Yeah, what does that even mean?
I mean, it was I'm pretty sure it was Persona 5. So it's a little bit technical, right? Like, there are things that you level up certain ways, and it affects the way that your character levels and the progression status and stuff. So like, I guess I get it, but also like, it ain't that deep.
They're just like a director. They're just like, you're not overreacting enough.
Yeah, I'm just asking you to come say hi every once in a while. You don't got to put me down like that.
Yeah. Can you just be like, you can even lie to me at that point if it's, you don't have to.
Like, wow, you have a lot of doctor's appointments.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This has been a thing that I've always wanted to do. I've had like conversations with people a few times of like, we should just make our own podcast. Like,
dude,
we banter all the time and it sounds so funny and people would really like it. And then I'm just like, but podcast's scary, or podcast, like you were kind of saying, like it's an investment piece. It's it's another thing to put on the plate next to streaming. Like I would put podcast creation and like production and everything right next to the level of effort that goes into creating like YouTube videos and live streaming. Like it's not easy.
Yeah. That's why I only try to shoot for like an hour or a little bit over, because I feel like that's a pretty good spot most people can listen to comfortably and not get lost or get too bored.
I completely agree. I listen to so many like D&D podcasts, and after like the first hour, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this, but I gotta pause it real quick and just like let my brain digest.
Yeah. That's how I am with Critical Role.
Critical Role's a big one.
Oh yeah, like what, 4 hours an episode?
I've been
crazy.
I've been trying to get into Natural 6 recently too, because I really enjoy the content that Ben Starr makes.
Nice, I haven't checked that out.
But it is also like a 2 to 4 hour each episode, and I still sadly have not made it through the first episode in a way that I feel comfortable moving to the next one, because I'm like, I didn't retain like half of that. This was so long, and like they're so funny and they're all making such great stories and characters, but I just can't.
Yeah, I had to take a little break from Critical Role because it was just like you get so invested in it and binge so many episodes back to back that it's just like, I gotta step away for a second. There's just so much information.
I have to be in like a specific mindset for podcasts too, which is a little hard. Like some days my brain is just like, all I want to hear is music. I don't want to hear anybody talking. Turn the lights off and just vibe for a little bit.
Yep. Every day in my car, it's like, as soon as I get in, I usually already know if I'm like, and it's not, is it this podcast or that podcast? It's like, do I want to do music or podcast?
Recently in the car for me, it's been mostly podcasts because I don't have a commute for work anymore. So finding time to fit in podcasts in a way that I can actually listen to them is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems to be if I'm alone at home or if I'm in the car, that seems to be the best way for me.
I have to be doing something. Otherwise I don't want to say bored, but like my brain just trails off pretty quickly.
Yeah. That's that ADHD brain.
Yep.
Starts going down the rabbit hole.
It's like, wow, they said something. That reminds me of this. Suddenly I'm watching YouTube videos while trying to listen to the podcast. I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah, they said this an hour ago, and here I am watching tutorials. Like, what is happening? Okay, well, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Twitch. I am Kaylachuu with 2 U's. That is my Twitch username. I am also on Instagram. I think it's just Kaylachuu with 1 U.
Either way, if you typed in Kaylachuu, what would, it's just, you would see you. What is it, your latest, what's your latest profile picture?
I think it's just it's a picture of me. My Twitch has like a yellow background, and then my Instagram has I'm just like super, super zoomed up, kind of smiling with blue hair and elf
Okay.
ears. And usually, if it has blue hair, it's me.
Easy.
Yeah, I make it very easy to find me in public places and private places. Stands out.
Well, if anybody wants to find me, you can find me at twitch.tv/I am Joey Cruse, patreon.com/I am Joey Cruse. If you subscribe, you can get anything I put out early before it goes public. So if you want to support that way, that would be really cool. If not, that's cool too. I really appreciate you all listening. And Kayla, thank you so much for coming in.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been an absolute blast.
Definitely. We'll definitely get together with Olin or whoever else, and we'll definitely have you on for some more for sure.
Yes, I would love that. But nothing better than a chaos.
Oh yeah, we definitely got to have one of those episodes with you. All right. Well, everybody take it easy. Have a good night, good morning, good evening, and see you on the next one.